The perfect living master also gives you a mantra or a simran or words to repeat. He gives it because that's traditional, that meditation is using mantra in order to prevent the thoughts from scattering. So we repeat some words. Actually, you can repeat any word, it helps. If you just rapidly repeat any words. I remember the master of transcendental meditation once came to see me. He wanted me to spread that word over the people, and he said, we can repeat certain words. I said, I can repeat any word. You can keep on repeating any word, it helps in concentrating your attention. But the perfect living master at the time of initiation gives words which have no connotation with any experience outside. It has a connotation, has a meaning with an experience that will follow inside. So he in advance prepares you by using words which are just an expression of what you can expect inside. The words that we use here in any language, as you probably know, any language that we speak here, the words are merely phonetic symbols. They're sounds, twisted sounds to look like words, and they become a language. What is the meaning of a twisted sound? How does it become language? How does it become intelligible to us? Is only by association of ideas. When a child is born and we constantly show him a cup and call it cup, his mind says that is cup. If no cup is shown and we keep on saying cup, he'll never know what a cup is. Therefore, all words in all languages have meaning to us, meaning and interpreted by our mind only with the association of ideas, what we can associate that word. Then the association can expand. For example, a child is told there's a chair. Then his chair, as a child, is only that chair. Then he sees big chairs and small chairs. So chair becomes bigger than one chair. It becomes 3 chairs. It becomes a form, shape. He sees 1,000 chairs when he grows up, and the chair becomes a much bigger thing. This was a point that was touched on by Socrates in his dialogue with Plato, when he said that when Plato had an argument about idealism, that how can inner things and ideas be more real than things? And that is how it was explained. That look at an idea of a chair and look at a concept of a chair. Let's go with the concept, which starts at the causal plane. Something to sit on higher than the level of the ground. Okay? Just a concept. It's not a chair, just a concept. That there's a ground and we can be actually sitting higher than that ground. It's a great concept. Then comes the idea. We can make a structure of some furniture on which we can sit. That becomes an idea of a chair. Then we come to physical world and make a chair. If that concept had not existed in the causal plane, if the idea had not existed in the astral plane, we could not make a chair. There would have been no chairs at all. But once that concept, which was single concept, just a concept, no chair. The concept did not include what ultimately came out. But the concept was the same which made the chair. In the astral plane, it became an idea. When the idea of a chair came, which chair was it? This or that? Or which one? There are thousands of chairs here. That idea of a chair covered all chairs. The idea of a chair covers all chairs. Therefore, from the idea of a chair, which was one idea, we were able to make all the chairs here. So Plato was told the idea is more real. Without the idea, nothing can be made here. The whole world here that we are watching is made out of ideas created at the astral plane. And the whole astral plane is created by the concept created in the causal plane. It's a metaphysical subject and can be understood very well by those who study metaphysics, that these are sources of creation of different objects that become visible to our sensory perceptions. So when we talk of language, the language we speak here has association of ideas based upon the ideas with which the thing was made. That means a child sees one chair, that's his chair. He grows up, more chairs become the chair. At the end, he comes to the astral idea. Chair means all the chairs that he can possibly see. He'll call every one of them a chair. The single word will mean. But it means the word, the sound, chair, is only possible to be understood if that experience of being with the chair has been there. All education that we have in languages, every language that we have ever learned is based upon this. Is based upon association of ideas. It is not only physical objects. It is also possible to associate them with abstract items like jealousy, hatred. This is not a piece of thing. It's not a person even. Jealousy is something, it's a very abstract thing. It's an experience. And yet we can use words like that to create the idea of what it is. All jealous people will have the same jealousy. Although jealousy is one, but the experience will be of so many people and maybe in different circumstances, but still be jealousy. So this is how the words have these meanings and limited meanings. Now, meaning of a word is different than the word. Supposing I were to say chair in one language and repeat the word chair in another language, the words are different. They refer to the same chair. When we have what we call telepathic communication, we communicate with people telepathically, then we are really referring to the meaning and not to the word. Have you ever noticed this? People have had telepathic communication with other people, and when they want to convey a message, it's not the word they are conveying, it's the meaning of the word they are conveying. Therefore, in telepathy, I can send a message in English, and a person who doesn't know English but only knows German can understand it. In the astral plane, that's normal communication. You can think in any language, and it can be understood by another person next to you immediately because of the meaning being transferred. So there are so many other features like this. When perfect living masters initiate us and they give us some words, they pick up words which have association of ideas with experience still to come. And that is why they prepare us in advance. So those words are useful for holding our attention and blocking the mind from thinking of other words like any other words. And yet they are also meaningful because they're preparing us for a future experience. And thirdly, when perfect living masters give those words, they empower those words. And the words have no longer the same connotation that they had. They become empowered as a protective force against negativity. Because perfect living masters know that this is a world of negativity. A lot of negativity here. And the negativity attacks us. So the perfect living masters give us a means to prevent the negativity from attacking us. And by those words, by repetition of the words, we prevent negativity from attacking us outside or inside and smoothens our way on the spiritual path. That is initiation by perfect living master. And that is how they teach us to meditate, to go from stage to stage, and then they join us at the astral plane and they take us back home. Their guarantee is that we'll go together. But we'll go together in two different forms. One, guidance from the physical form of a master here, who cannot be with us 24/7, but we can meet whenever we can, and guidance from a master inside who is with us 24/7. This little gap, when we are only with the master sometimes, occasionally, and when we are with the master all the time, is the gap where we use our free will, should I go, not go, and all those questions of doubt arise. Once we are there, all these finish. In the rest of the journey, one doesn't have to worry about. It is all in the company of the master who knows the entire route to our true home.